to thank everyone for joining us for today's online seminar. Our topic today is thermal management. So we're going to talk a little bit about how to use igus bearings in your thermal management applications. And we have a focus on automotive applications, but this is not the only area that this presentation will be useful for. So if you're coming from a different industry, then by all means stick around. I think you'll find it very useful. And we're going to start with a short video, and then Sebastian's going to take over for us.
Thank you very much, Nicole, for the introduction, and thank you everyone for joining. It's a great pleasure, and not only me, we are very excited to have you here and for our today's topic, which is definitely one of the key topics for the automotive industry. It's about thermal management, and we will have a lot of exciting applications and related points for that in today's seminar. So let's take a look into the agenda for today. We will start with a very short look into our company, like some history, where we were founded, and our products. And then we will go directly to the topic thermal management. What is it about? Why is it so significant? And why is it so important, this topic for the automotive industry? We will for sure take a look on a lot of applications like this one here. So we will find out later, like, what is it about? What is this moving segment here? And what are the benefits from our products we can offer for this application? For sure, we will have many more applications and many more lab reports, information with benefits from our products for relevant applications as well. Last but not least, Q&A. Please feel free to put your question in the chatter. Our team is available, and they will answer the questions all the time directly in the chatter, and for sure also after the seminar we will spend some more time, and you have the chance to ask questions also by the mic, by chat. We will answer all of the questions for sure. Speaking of the team, you can see our automotive engineers on the bottom right. Like, service and support is very, very important for us, and this is why we have such a big team just focusing on the automotive industry. And we are really happy to serve you and just get in contact with us, like by WhatsApp, by Teams, by Skype, by calls, by mail. We are always available to give you the best support as possible. All right, so let's take a look into the company. What is when we were founded in 1964 by Günther Blase, you can see him here in this small picture on the top, together with his wife. He founded igus in the past, and actually in his private garage, and invested into an injection molding machine, contacted an automotive supplier, and finally could use a part out of an injection molding machine. By his engineering, he developed a replacement solution from a metal part into this plastic part. And what is so exciting is that we are still following the same approach he started the business with. And this was always like the the technology improvement. He reached a longer lifetime with this part. And on the other hand, also to reduce the costs. So he also replaced it with a cheaper solution. 13 years later, we went into and moved into that building, and now we are really, really happy about our headquarters in Germany, in Cologne on this picture, and our very similar looking and beautiful building also in Rhode Island in the US. This was the first product. Nowadays, our product range is a little bit more diverse, so we have a big division for the chain department, drag chains, all kind of cables, also pre-harnessed solutions, always with the target to reduce the downtime and having longer lifetimes for the applications. And why we are especially today here is about our dry tech division, our bearing department, not only the sliding bearings, also the spherical self-alignment bearings, all linear bearings. And we even have more, we will see later in some of the applications. We are using even more products from our range. Okay, so what is thermal management, as we are speaking about that topic today? So first of all, if we check the definition is about the control of the energy flows. And in particular, it's focusing on the heat flows, if you check the books. And not only during the start of the car or during one point, it's always focusing on the operating during different conditions, like during the start of the car, during driving on the road, and also during different conditions on the outside, like if it's warm, if it's hot, like everything like that is related to the thermal management topic. And yeah, why is it on such a high increasing importance for the automotive industry? There are so many different reasons, and let's take a look onto our banner we created for this seminar and go one by one. So thermal management is responsible for very many different things. For example, it is responsible to heat up or also to cool down the engine of the car, like we see here. Not only for the combustion engines, but also for the electrical vehicles as well. Then it's responsible for the battery cooling or the heating in terms of alternative drive concepts. Another point is about the emission reduction. This is also related to the thermal management. And now we see like why thermal management is such a big topic. Another point is the interior comfort of the car. Like you want to have it cold in the summer, you want to have it warm in the winter. All this is related to that topic as well. And if we combine all these responsibilities, the target is always to reach the best efficiency of the car. In other words, we can use the description like you want to have as less fuel consumption as possible, or speaking about electrical vehicles, usually we are using the term like to extend the vehicle's range and not the fuel consumption. So these are like the points which are connected. And as mentioned earlier, not only during the start of the car or during like the summertime, but in all seasons and in every point during driving. And these means we have so many different demands we have to fulfill with the thermal management. And it's a very complex topic, especially for the engineers nowadays. And now let's take a look on some trends and some challenges for the thermal management. So a big trend is for sure that we want to have as less fuel consumption as possible, as well as emission norms going more strictly, going more into the tendency to reduce them as strict as possible. On the other hand, we are asking, as a consumer point of view, we are asking for a greater luxury. And these like controversy points leading to a lot of challenges for our engineering. For example, we have to check and to develop and replace old systems which are maybe not so sufficient and efficient in the end, and have to replace it with new solutions. For example, the mechanical coolant pumps, as they were like used very traditional in the vehicles, nowadays being replaced with smaller and more space-saving and more efficient electrical coolant pumps. Another point and another challenge for that is that we have so many more drive concepts nowadays. Like in the past, it was mainly the consumption engine, but nowadays we are also having the electrical vehicles, hybrid vehicles, fuel cell vehicles, and many more, and like these getting more and more market share, and different demands. A different concept means also a different demand. Especially for the electrical or for the alternative drive concepts, if we sum it up, the link and the connection to the thermal management is even higher connected to the efficiency of the vehicle, because now you don't have to just focus on the motor and the engine or the interior comfort. You also have to focus, cool down, heat up, and reach the optimal temperature for the battery. And this is a big part and a big challenge for the thermal management. For that, I brought also a statement and a quote from Conti, It's in German, so sorry for that, but I will translate it. So Conti is saying like thermal management is so connected to the efficiency that that if you optimize it, you can reach a 25% higher range with your electrical vehicles, and this just should underline how important it is. But what about applications, Nicole? I would like to hand over to you and give us some examples of applications for us.
Yeah, thank you, Sebastian. So when we talk about applications, we're going to see here, these are all applications that are common in the automotive industry that we've helped solve with iglide bearings in the past. So for the purposes of this presentation and for thermal management, we're going to focus specifically on some topics in some particular areas, including coolant pumps, including cooling water and control radiators and multi-way valves and vents. In addition to that, active grill shutters. Sebastian's going to tell us all about that a little bit later on, I believe. Also fans. So inside seating now we have climate changes and fans and for heating and cooling. So we'll talk about that as well. And very commonly used with iglide bearings would be actuator applications. So we're going to talk about those. And in addition to that, we're going to talk about so many more things. So let's continue on. The most important thing we want to talk about is that really all of these can be solved with iglide bearings, and we're going to talk about how that can happen in just a moment. So let's start now with explaining what iglide is. So when we talk about iglide bearings, what makes them unique and what makes them different. And Sebastian went over a little bit about our history, but let's talk about what makes iglide bearings special. So all iglide bearings include 3 different components. They start out with the base polymer. The base polymer is responsible for the wear resistance of the bearing. And then we add fibers and or filaments to help give the bearing strength and add for additional forces, as well as solid lubricants. So solid lubricants help lubricate the bearing and prevent friction in the system. And while they're doing this, everything is dry running. So there's no need for any external lubrication or grease. One really important point about iglide bearings is these are all homogeneously blended. So the entire bearing is acting as a wear surface. So you have all of these 3 components really throughout the entire bearing. So if you have a little bit of wear, you're not going to have metal on metal, obviously, because it's a plastic bearing, but you will still have those solid lubricants, fibers and or filaments, and base plastics to give you the optimized lifetime for the bearing. And how we get these different bearing materials and how we achieve this is through really our work in our lab. So we have a group of engineers who develop new materials, and not only do we develop them, but it's really critical that we test them. So we have a very large test lab. You can see we do more than 16,000 tests per year. It's 3,800 square meters and significant amounts of tests, including 12,000 just for the bearing department. And every time we run a new material or do new testing, we calculate that and use that in our lifetime calculation tool. So we're able to tell you how long your bearing will last in your application based on real life test data. This test lab helps us increase your lifetime, which offers tech up, and reduce the cost of the system. So our test lab is very valuable to us. It's actually the largest test lab of its kind, and we utilize this information. We do not only our own specific tests, but customer tests as well. So if you have customer tests, we have an automotive lab that can work on those in addition to. And now let's talk a little bit more about thermal management applications, including coolant pumps. So you can see here, as Sebastian mentioned earlier, there's a shift and a trend in the automotive sector to move from mechanical coolant pumps to electrical coolant pumps. So some of the benefits and the features that you can expect to achieve with iglide bearings in this particular application include many things, including temperature resistance, including cost savings. So commonly used bearings in this area would include ceramic and carbon graphite. The iglide bearings would reduce the cost tremendously versus those components, and not just for the bearing cost itself, but the overall cost of the system. In addition to that, chemical resistance as well as noise reduction. So plastic bearings are vibration damping. In addition to that, their wear resistance will certainly help with that. And most of these applications have some overmolding requirements. We do have bearing materials that are suitable for this, and we're happy to discuss with you a little bit further and a little more detail on overmolding and how that can be achieved using iglide. And last but not least is emergency dry running situations. So in most of these applications, there are requirements that engineers face in order to account for any potential situation where the coolant pump will be running dry. And our bearings, because they are dry running and meant to be dry running, can withstand that. So we talk about high movement speed and mediums like hydrodynamic lubrication that you can see here. And we can achieve that using different types of features in the bearing itself too. So you can see here we have some different features that we've utilized in order to improve that feature and that function of the hydrodynamic lubrication. So lots of different ways that we can solve commonly problems found by using standard bearing materials in coolant pump applications. And now what's really important is let's talk about some testing that we've done. So we talked about our test lab and we talked about how valuable it is to us. In this particular case, we actually did a test for a coolant pump application. And it was really critical that we ran the test dry. So you can see here, the speed is 4,700 RPM and it's running dry for 18 minutes. And this is after we flush the system with water. And if we take a look at the results from this, you can see here that there's virtually no wear on the bearing itself. So you can see really no wear present here. And this is after 18 minutes of dry running at 4,700 RPM. So pretty fast speeds here. In addition to that, you can see the shaft also has no traces of wear on it. So there's no detectable wear on the running surface as well. And what's really important about that is that if you're taking, if you have any significant wear, you can increase a lot of things, including the play in the system, as well as the potential noise in the system. So it's important for us that we reduce the amount of wear that you'll see. So dry running with our H370 material, you can see that there was virtually no wear on the bearing or the shaft and the entire assembly as a whole. Cooling water control radiators. So this is very similar in benefits. All the benefits are very similar here. So you can see quiet operation as well as chemical resistance, suitable for overmolding. And we're able to do testing on this as well as offer you different features in the bearing to assist in this application. So overall cost reduction is key here as well. And so we saw this application earlier, but I'm going to ask Sebastian. Sebastian, please tell us more about this.
Thank you, Nicole. I would be pleased to do it. So this application actually is called the active front grille shutter. This is, like a very new and newer kind of application. So this is also always very, very exciting that new applications are coming by. We can use our iglide bearings inside. So let's take a look. So in the shutter system, which has usually like blade systems, flap systems, which are opening from the left to the right, we can use our iglide bearings in the sliding form. Another option is if you have a rollo system, which is also traditionally used in these active front grills. This would be like a sliding function up and down. We are using already very, very successful our Xyros ball bearings. This is also another product we have. So this can be, as mentioned by and introduced by Nicole, used completely dry, like without any external lubrication, without any corrosion, which is for sure a key factor for that application, since it's outside of the car and can get in contact with water, etc. So here you can see like 4 points of ball bearings being used in this rollo system. For sure, besides the ball bearings or the sliding bearings, we also have other products, and you could use our iglide rollers. For example, you can see the groove outside of the profile. So here, for example, for the wires, or for the movement function, the groove is key. Or we have our igball linkages, like you can see it here. Just to name some of the other products we have, because this is a very often used like linkage and part and product inside of these like rollo systems or related applications. We know, for example, and serving and selling our parts into the active air dam applications, like very similar movement types and usability of the car, of the benefits of the material and of the product. So talking about benefits, as mentioned already, like the corrosion freeness is a big advantage for these applications which are outside of the vehicle. Self-lubricating, as always, with our materials. We did a lot of testing with the resistancy against dirt and dust, which is also always in contact to the materials, like Arizona fine dust tests or very high minus temperature tests, like minus 40 degree, etc. Everything passed very well. For sure, Nicole mentioned the cost reduction also here in the ball bearing department, or the linkages or the sliding bearings. Always we are trying to improve the technology and reduce the costs. Another big point in this application, especially here on the roller system, was the coefficient of friction requirement of the customer. So he asked for the best possible and lowest possible coefficient of friction, and this is why he ended up with the ball bearings from us, because he wanted, and he is using actually, a very space-saving, a very small actuator systems which don't have too much power, and this is why he needed this kind of optimized materials and design of the parts. Another big point is for sure the lightweight and the weight reduction. Yeah, like usually you have a couple of bearing positions in the car, and if you sum it up, it can reach definitely kilos per car you can save compared to like the metal bearings in total. Another application, as Nicole mentioned earlier, is for sure the interior comfort. And in terms of fan systems, it can be in the climatic controls. We can use the bearings inside of the fans, or, for example, in the seating systems, you have also fan systems to cool down or to heat up, everything possible with our bearings. Another point we want to mention is the clip function and the Infinity logo with our bearings inside, just to mention that the big benefit for the injection molded parts is actually that you can like use and create a special part with every shape you consider and makes sense for your application. So this is a very, very big advantage. And we are also focusing always on like designs with easy assembly, like not only focusing on the part price reduction, but also focusing on easy, fast assembly, reducing costs in terms of the production. The big application and last application we want to show here, first of all, is the actuators. And this is like a summary of all the other applications, because usually you can find these actuators in every application which is moving inside of the car. So you can find them to move the coolant pump, to move the valve systems, the active front grille, the seating systems which are automatically moving, and even more and more, like nearly each application, like the side mirrors, all applications, even which are not related to the thermal management, having actuators inside. For example, the charging flap of electrical vehicles, everything should move automatically. This is our luxury demand as a consumer, as mentioned earlier, and many more applications. So here you can find our bearings inside of the actuators, like in the design of the bearing and of the sliding bearing, as you can see here. But we are also offering like gears out of our self-lubricating materials, or we are offering the spindles and the nuts also from our side, just to name some other products. And the big benefit is always you get everything from just from one hand, so you don't have to talk for the nut with this company, for the spindle for that company. We are designing the complete system together with you. So that's it for the applications, and I would like to hand over to Nicole again. So maybe you can summarize our benefits.
Sure,
Thank you.
I'd love to. Thank you, Sebastian. Okay, so we talked a lot about thermal management applications and just igus in general, and what iglide is, our test lab, and quite a few features and benefits of our bearings. But just to summarize, I think you can see here, you see at the top it says tech up, cost down. It's our job, and we take that very seriously here at igus. For us, we always want to offer you a benefit and improve the technology of your application while reducing the overall costs. And we have kind of an older saying at igus that we want to find you the least expensive solution that works the best. And really, that's kind of how that summarizes. So when we talk about tech up, we talk about all these different benefits, including corrosion-free, self-lubricating, so they're all dry running, all of our bearings, which means that they're maintenance-free as well. There's no need for additional maintenance on the bearing. Quiet operation, both because of the reduction in wear between the two systems, but also because of the way the bearings are blended and because they're plastic, as well as chemical resistance. So we have a lot of chemical resistance, low coefficients of friction, weight reduction, suitable for overmolding, as we discussed, and certainly dry running situations. We have done testing and we know that our bearings would work very, very good in those. And all of our test data in our catalog is based on dry running conditions. And how we can improve cost, using just the bearing cost, we do offer significant cost advantages over ceramic or carbon graphite bearings, as well as PTFE coated bearings and metal ball bearings and rollers. But when it comes to cost down, it's not just the bearing itself that we look at, it's also the overall application. So we have bearings that are suitable for different types of shafts. They can be used on rougher shafts instead of polished shafts. And really, there's a whole host of ways that we like to look at the cost down portion of this, and that includes the overall bearing system. No need for maintenance, no need for downtime. All of those things come into play here, and we really find it, really important to us that we're helping you improve your technology while reducing your costs. And speaking of some of our technology, maybe we should talk a little bit about quality management. I know quality management for automotive customers is really, really key and important. And our quality department in Germany is a world-class quality department. So certified, we have IATF certifications, ISO certifications, really all automotive norms. You can see on here VDA, fogging, burn rates, as well as optical control. So we do have a variety of different optical machines that can 100% quality check bearings, and we do that quite often for automotive customers. So if you have specific needs in that regard, we would love to talk about them individually, and we can certainly talk about that, but we just want to let you know that we do have that in our quality department in Germany. And just to kind of summarize, we just want to let you know first that we do appreciate your time and joining us today. And we also are open for any questions that you have or suggestions if you'd like future webinars, or if there's particular products that you'd be interested in. We also, a lot of our new products get developed with customer suggestions and requests and requirements. So if you have particular projects you'd like to talk about, we would love to talk to you about that as well. And you can see on the left-hand side, we have a few pictures. That's myself in our Rhode Island trade show space. So we're happy to walk you through our trade show space and show you some of our products virtually, of course, or Sebastian is there in our German facility, so he can walk us through and do a trade show tour in our German facility. And both are a little bit different, so you would get different experiences in each, and we're happy to do both with you, or one or the other with you. In addition to that, our visits, most of you were invited by a technical salesperson who works for igus, who would invite you to this webinar, and they're open for virtual visits as well. And then we have a whole host of technical resources, including videos on our YouTube channel. Sebastian and I just completed another webinar, Noise Reduction with iglide Bearings and Vehicles. That is available to you on our YouTube page, as well as our Engineer's Toolbox. And one of the most important things that we have would be our lifetime calculation tools. So all of those are available to you on our website under configurators. Check them out. You can also design gears. I know Sebastian had mentioned gears, and we can do quite a bit when it comes to prototyping for you. So we would love to talk about any particular applications that you have. And I think that's all I have, but I'm going to turn it back to Sebastian and see if he has any closing remarks. And please do not hesitate to ask any questions. Once Sebastian's done, I'll stop the recording.
Thank you, Nicole. Yeah, I think this is everything we had. And yeah, thank you very much, everyone, for joining. And like Nicole mentioned, it's our job, Nicole, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Take up, goes down, for sure. We are always here to support, and always welcome if you contact us at any time. Sure. Thank you very much for joining.